regular City Commission meeting for Tuesday, June 23rd, 2015 for the City of Coffeyville, Kansas. Tonight's invocation will be conducted by Pastor Nicole Schwartz of the First United Methodist Church. After the invocation, please remain standing for a pledge of allegiance to the flag.
Please join with me in prayer or observe a moment of silence. Holy and gracious God, as we gather here to do the business of the City of Coffeyville, we want to take time to give you thanks. We give you thanks for leaders throughout our community who have had vision for the future, who care for members of our community, who keep us safe and healthy, who teach and guide our residents, both young and old, and who take pride in our community, both in what it has been and what it can be. And God, as we remember and give thanks for these many blessings you have given us, we take the time to remember communities around the world that are living in the midst of tragedy. Some face natural disasters such as flooding. There are others facing unnatural man-made disasters caused by hate and bigotry. We observe a moment of silent prayer for the communities facing flooding, as well as the community of Charleston, South Carolina, and the African Methodist Episcopal Church. God, as we gather today, we ask that you give us wisdom in our thoughts and words and actions. Give us focus that we complete the tasks before us tonight. Give us hope for our future and inspire us to be innovative and creative in finding paths forward. And help us to put the needs of our community before our own agendas and needs. Guide us tonight and always, that we might follow your will and be beacons of hope, and that our community of Coffeyville might grow in strength and knowledge of you. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Before we start tonight's meeting, I'd like to introduce a special person in the audience tonight. Mr. Kendall Francis will be the upcoming city manager for the City of Coffeyville. I also like to welcome him to tonight's City Commission meeting and ask him to come forward and just tell us a little bit about yourself so the community will be more familiar with you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Williams. I have to ask my new friend Mary to come up here because she said that she helps people who are new to the community and helps them so they won't be nervous. And I can tell you that I'm nervous. But they also said we have to look at the camera so they'll see our pretty face on television. But, my name is Kendall Francis. I just want to tell you how excited I am to be in Coffeyville. I've spent the day here today, and it's going to be hectic. James spent an hour and a half going through everything that he didn't want to do and has left me to do. and he couldn't say often enough how glad he was for me to be here. And I've heard some of the same sentiments from other staff and community members, and I want you to know that I'm equally as excited to be here. I wish I was getting started a little sooner, but I do have commitments to my current position that I need to fulfill. But I'll be here as much as possible and as often as I can be. Thankfully, with technology, can keep up to date pretty good. And Stephanie has already proven that. She flooded my emails this afternoon with budget stuff, so I have plenty of reading to do. I look forward to meeting as many of you as I can. Please forgive me. I'll get about 1 out of 10 names right for a while, but I'm excited to see this many people attend the meeting. This is about 2 years worth of attendance at my current city. So I hope you're not just here to see the new face and are active with the community, and that's exciting. So, but again, thank you, and thank you, Mayor.
For coming. You're not half as nervous as you think.
Thank you, Kendall.
Thank you.
I got a question.
Sure.
Kendall, you going to hang around for the meeting?
I will be here the entire meeting.
Okay, I didn't know if we had any business to take care of with Kendall today, or...
He's going to be here for the remainder of the meeting, and I'm also going to invite him to our executive session if that's appropriate with the counselor. Okay. Thank you, Kendall.
Yeah, my contract's signed, so you're stuck with me, I guess, for a little while anyway.
Well, we like all the free days we can get.
And I'm willing to put in a few of those. So, thank you.
Thanks, Kendall. Glad you're here.
Thank you, Kendall. Moving on to our tonight's consent agenda items. First is regular city commission meeting minutes for Tuesday, June 9, 2015. The second is the special city commission meeting minutes for Monday, June 15, 2015. And the 2015 appropriation ordinance number AO-15-11 in the amount of $5,513,241.47. Do any of the commissioners have any additions or subtractions to the two city commission meeting minutes? Do any of the commissioners have any questions in reference to the appropriation ordinance AO-15-11? Seeing none, I move to approve the consent agenda items.
Motion was made by Mayor Williams and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve the consent agenda as presented. Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye. Public hearing and special proclamations. Tonight we have another guest in our presence will be Aaron Heckelman of the Montgomery County Action Council. He was going to give us an update as well as the commission and the community on the activities of the Montgomery County Action Council. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Thanks for having me this evening and allowing me to give you an update as you approach your budget cycle for 2016. As I was preparing for this, want to commend the staff report that covers much of what I originally was going to go over, but so just wanted to hit a few highlights that to add to that. Obviously, the past 12 months have been difficult economically here, despite the best efforts of City of Coffeyville, Montgomery County, the state of Kansas. We were not able to retain Amazon, who left, that along with Southwire, and then the general downturn, particularly impacting those in the oil and gas production sector, has resulted in, a difficult past 12 months. Despite that, though, wanted to highlight, the success that we have had in the past year, particularly the Acme expansion, and KDOT's $1 million they put into that, coupled with the City of Coffeyville's funding to make those transportation improvements. Ultimately, once they're up and running full speed, will allow them to increase capacity and add about 50 jobs. Also should be a precursor to additional growth with them. So that was very positive. Right on the tail end of 2014, the Lauren Cook announcement that they were locating here to a vacant property was great. If you haven't been by that property, and seen what they've done to clean up that building, and, I counted last week one day about, 15 cars out there. So they're up and operational. We're getting close to actually production side. Also, more recently, the RBK Manufacturing USDA loan that was approved that we had worked on with them for some time. So, and then bouncing back once again, just the amount of time and effort that a core group put in on Amazon up into them leaving to try and retain them, and then post-Amazon, Amazon's decision, the recovery efforts, James, Mayor Faulkner at the time, the chambers, the colleges, not just Coffeyville but across the county, really came together and worked on some recovery efforts, held three separate job fairs that were impactful, have done a number of analysis on the impact of that closure and what that will mean long term. And then now what we are really focusing on is shifting into recruitment to those facilities. At the same time, remembering, though, that our core is with our existing business and industry. That's where our job growth primarily comes from. So obviously maintaining that focus, but with those empty facilities, that is where we're concentrating a lot of our time and effort currently. One thing maybe just to highlight in the tail end of the report that you all received, our budget. One thing I wanted to talk a little bit about, the sources of our revenue. We get, of our total budget, just over 50% from the county. Coffeyville, being our largest community contributor at $25,000, accounts for about 12%. Independence, about 8%. Caney, Cherryvale, 1% apiece. Other revenue, golf tournament, things like that, that we do accounts for about 8% as well. And then our private memberships account for about 20% of our total budget. So that's how we're funded. What I did was include our allocation of time for 2014 and thus far here in 2015 or through the end of May. But just sort of, to I think, provide an example that I feel you're getting a good return for your investment as far as time and effort. For 2014, we allocated about 27% of our total time and effort to Coffeyville-specific initiatives and projects, plus all of the county-wide initiatives and projects. So, and last year's funding amount, I believe, at $17,000, so a lower percentage. So even by this year's standards at 12%, more than doubled that. Thus far this year, we're running close to 22% of our total time and effort for the city of Coffeyville, based on 12% of the budget. So we're proud of that. One other thing I wanted to highlight and just sort of make people more aware of, as I've talked about it in the past with you all, is the inclusion in the Rural Opportunity Zone program was just extended in the tax bill that the legislature passed a little over a week ago. So the Rural Opportunity Zone incentivizes people to reside in Montgomery County now that we are part of it. If they're moving in, taking a new job here from out of state, they qualify for up to 5 years of no state income tax. And if they are moving in from outside the county from anywhere, they can apply through the state and receive up to $15,000 in student loan repayment. So since becoming eligible for that program last July, we lead the state in number of applications on the student loan side, which is what they track. So that's very positive. One thing I wanted to go through the list real quick and just read you some of the names of where those applicants are employed, which for us, we saw this as a great opportunity to provide a tool for our businesses and industry to recruit in the talent that they need and often say they have difficulty recruiting in. So just a few of the companies represented: CCC, USD 445, there's 3 of them, John Deere, Fort County with offices here, CVR, another John Deere, another 445. So obviously, we're able to get included in that. It's making an impact for employers here in Coffeyville and Montgomery County, and then now it's been extended for another 5 years. So we're excited about that. I'm excited about the recruitment efforts we're currently undergoing on the Southwire, the Amazon building. Both of those, looking at doing an open house for local industry and regional industry later in July. Having both of those facilities open, before and after the noon hour, so somebody interested can come in, tour one before lunch. Mac sponsors a lunch over at the Armory or somewhere, air conditioned this time of year. Tour the other facility in the afternoon. So something we're working on putting together. We just had some partners of ours shooting aerial photography and video of both of those facilities late last week. Have submitted those on a number of state projects and gotten some follow-up response on that we're very positive and excited about. Continue to partner with the city on the third-party consultant list with over 100 companies that have been identified as, having a need and regionally making sense for that facility, doing other recruitment initiatives through LinkedIn and some other social media, following up on the regular, just sort of direct real estate generated leads. Somebody sees a listing, makes a call on it. So a lot of interest in those facilities, and we're excited about that. Last year, I know the community, the county, everybody did their best, but some things just ultimately being a business's decision, they can make that decision, and we didn't win that one. But this year we're positive moving forward. So, questions, comments, anything else I can cover? Yeah.
Have you heard anything about the transmodal thing?
So the transmodal was submitted. We were originally one of 18 communities. Then the state opened it up to everybody. They got, I believe, 93 submissions. And we actually have, just as of a little bit earlier today, but I believe James is going to talk about that as part of his report a little bit later on. Go ahead. Okay. So Representative Kelly had followed up with KDOT to get an update. And as of now, the consultant group and the Freight Advisory Committee at KDOT that are both working through that have identified that they will make announcements. I believe we're looking at sometime in August, but and have been whittling that list down, and as of now, we are still in consideration. So that's very positive. If they're this far and they've been working on it for a couple of months, to still be in consideration means that they're really giving some thought to that. And I will say, though, the number of opportunities that have spun off of just that process and talking to landowners, the freight rail operators, has been very encouraging. And even if KDOT doesn't select Coffeyville as one of the KDOT funded sites, I wouldn't be shocked to see other development, other positives for the community even come out of just this process. So very encouraging. Hopefully, obviously, we want to be part of the KDOT supported, partially KDOT funded, hopefully majority KDOT funded project, but if not, far from the end of the opportunities with that project. So that was very good news we got just today. So
Thank you.
yep.
I'd like to ask Aaron about, I read a little something on that. I'm trying to get caught up on some of these things that I didn't know about when I got on board here. But why would this intermodal, why would it be better to be in southeast Kansas versus somewhere else? I heard a little something about the port, and if you're in so many miles of the port of Catoosa, you're in this zone.
Correct. You can be included in the zone, in what they call a foreign trade zone, and we are, Watco, who operates here, the South Kansas and Oklahoma line, has this rail line goes directly to the port of Catoosa. And with that, the port of Catoosa is a Customs Bureau port of entry into the United States. With that, there is the ability to extend what they call a foreign trade zone, which offers tariff benefits and other export-friendly benefits to manufacturers to locate in areas that are foreign trade zones if the product that they're producing is shipped straight outside the U.S. So it really streamlines that process and saves them money. If you fall within, I want to say it's an hour, 90 minutes drive time or 70 some odd miles of a port of entry, you can fall under their jurisdiction and set that up. So with the transmodal site here with direct rail access to the port of Catoosa, we have the ability to offer potential manufacturers or existing manufacturers that have product that goes direct to export, the ability to extend and set up that foreign trade zone. It's something that's been looked at in the past here in the county. Some businesses have looked at it, but hasn't, for the cost of their setup and whatnot, hasn't come through yet. But with the transload type facility where we could start to get a critical mass of businesses looking to do direct export, could really be something beneficial.
So the state's making the decision on where to put it.
Correct. Where they're going to fund it.
They're going to fund it.
Yeah, where they're going to make their investment, and they've never really isolated it and said they're only going to do one. I think in a couple of their just communications, they've said potentially more than one site in the state of Kansas. But what they're trying to do in a nutshell is regionally place these that will save shipping costs to Kansas manufacturers to get, better pricing on their exports, essentially transported out.
Well,
in the
wouldn't it make
southeast.
sense for it to be in Wichita?
There's already, within the larger communities, there's already a greater access to transload services, with all the rail infrastructure that's already there. If you're a Wichita manufacturer, in Wichita, you can get your product on, from truck to rail, essentially, and vice versa. Here in southeast Kansas, with the surveys that Tricia was able to do, a number of our existing manufacturers have said they have to freight everything up to Kansas City just to get it on rail, or to Wichita, that sort of thing. So those are the savings that the state's really trying to look at. How can they make it more cost advantageous for manufacturers and sectors where they're having to ship something, a couple hundred miles potentially to get it on rail quicker.
Okay. Now, are we the third most industrial county in the state?
By total manufacturing output, we are. In the 2012 economic census, which they do every 5 years, our manufacturing output, so the total value of the goods produced in the manufacturing sector in Montgomery County, we were fourth, $6.1 billion. We're behind Sedgwick, Johnson, and Shawnee County, I want to say. And that's in total output. We have a refinery here. We have some other manufacturers that produce very expensive, very value-added goods. But despite that, we are still 8th in the state in manufacturing payroll in the manufacturing sector and 10th in gross employment in the manufacturing sector. So even, an argument that, a refinery turns out just such a high dollar volume of product every year, we're still way above where we would be just based on population. We're the 17th most populous county, but 4th in output, 8th in payroll, and 10th in total employment. So obviously manufacturing's a sector that we do here in Montgomery County, and really what my primary focus and Mac's primary focus is.
Okay. Well, you said a lot about the transloading facility. I'd still like to know more.
Sure.
I don't know what it is. I want to know
Sure.
what they're looking for, okay? What are they looking for? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot to talk about, and I really don't want to talk about it anymore tonight, but
Yep.
maybe we can talk about it a little bit later.
Absolutely.
I have a question, sir.
Yes.
Your time allocation by community, it's broken down in this pie chart that you submitted to us.
Uh-huh.
My question is the time that you spend working to fill the buildings out at the industrial park, is that counted, or is that counted as county time, or is that counted as Coffeyville time?
Thus far, I have counted it as Coffeyville time. And, at some point in where you're going with that, I get a lot of those, the impact of all of our employers is larger than one community. Amazon was 50% of the county population was Coffeyville, 30% was independent. So it is broader than that, but I basically go with address of if it's a project specific to a building or a site. Often, like with the state proposals, if it's, say, bare ground, bare industrial ground, I'll split it up between the two. If I submit something with acreage at Coffeyville's Industrial Park and acreage in Independence Cherryville, I've done that before where we've had 3 submittals. We break it by town.
So what I'm getting at though is the 26.86% time that you spent working on issues as far as economic development for Coffeyville versus the 22.07 for the county. That number can actually be a little bit deceiving, because if you're working for a county project that lies just outside the city limits of Coffeyville, that's still going to be a major impact for Coffeyville.
Sure. For example, what I count as county, the Rural Opportunity Zone program.
Okay.
Because that's universal to all communities. So all the time that we put in working on, getting that through the legislature last year, showed up as county. So the county time is really of benefit to all communities,
That's what,
plus what was isolated specifically to each city.
thank you, that's all I had.
Yep.
Any further questions? Thank you, sir. Thank you for
Absolutely,
the
I'm always
presentation.
available to come and talk about any more specific issues or anything, and appreciate your support.
Thanks, Aaron.
Uh-huh.
Resolution number R-15-76, a resolution to execute an agreement with Algor Martin and Associates for design engineering of the 2016 Clink project. Thomas Osborne, engineering tech, will make comments.
Did we skip it?
Oh, I skipped that. All right, I skipped it. We'll go back. Go ahead. Just for those following along, we're out of order.
See, what you did.
Told you I was gonna get it in. We're out of order.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight before you, I'm bringing a recommendation for design services for the 2016 Clink to be awarded to Algar Martin and Associates, Inc. This project, the 2016 Clink, is from Buckeye to Overlook. We're doing an ultra-thin overlay and concrete rehab for the joints. It's basically a continuation from the past, I'm not sure if it's 3 or 4 clinks that we've been awarded. Basically, we started with grinding from, I believe it was Buckeye to 8th Street, as well as South Walnut, and then we completed joint repair on South Walnut. And it's the same overlay material that was on South Walnut and from 8th Street to Buckeye. Last August, we were notified by KDOT that we were awarded this grant. In May, we finally got the approval to go ahead and go out for solicitation for engineers to design. We received 3. Those RFQs were given to a selection committee. They came back unanimous with Algar Martin. Algar Martin has been the project engineer for all the previous clinks as well, so they're very familiar with what we're doing.
That's currently concrete, right?
It is, let's see, that section is concrete. There's been some previous dowel retrofitting that's been done before, so there's really not a lot of concrete rehab on this one. This one's mostly going to be the ultra-thin bonded overlay that provides for a new wearing surface and to help seal and keep stuff from getting down in the joints, popping those joints out.
So it's kind of protecting the concrete.
Yes.
Do we have a estimated time of starting this project?
It's the 2016 Clink. We're hoping to be able to place bids this fall so that we can get a jump first thing next spring on the actual construction.
Any other questions? Motion?
Make a motion to pass Resolution R-1576 for approval.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Martin and seconded by Commissioner Taylor to approve resolution number R-15-76 for adoption. Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Going back, we don't have any old business tonight, so what we did just now was part of the new business. I'd like to open the floor up now for comments from the public. Any item that's not on the agenda that the public wishes to speak to the commission about or address any concerns or any issues that you may have, now would be the time to approach the podium. Please state your name and address and feel free to speak.
I'm Mary Wilson, and I have a couple thank yous that I want to give tonight. One is for whoever mowed Overlook Woodland Corner. thank you. I almost had an accident a while back because the grass was too tall. It was surely nice to have it short. The other thank you is to the electrical department. I have a peach tree in the back that's heavy with fruit that was getting large, and then you added the rain on top of that, and that poor tree I thought was going to hit the ground. Unfortunately, some of the limbs were hanging over the electric line, and when I looked out, the line was taut, so I called the electric line in my panic mode and said, please send someone out. And they did and clipped the limbs for me, and I want to thank them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Does anyone else wish to address the commission? Seeing no further, we'll move on to ordinance number G-15-01, a first reading of an ordinance to create a park advisory board. City Attorney Paul Kreitz will make comments.
Commissioners, this ordinance is in the same form as you saw at the last meeting when we just discussed it, other than we did add term limits. A member of the advisory board would serve no more than 2 consecutive terms. Be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
You indicated there's no changes from what we had prior to this day. Gentlemen, you have any questions?
Nope.
Motion.
I move to approve ordinance G-15-01 for approval.
I second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Martin and seconded by Mayor Williams to approve ordinance number G-15-01 for first reading. Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Moving on to resolution number R-15-77, a resolution to execute a construction agreement with Donaldson Construction for modified asphalt quickset resurfacing for designated streets. Director Chuck Shively and engineering tech Thomas Osborne will make comments.
Clicker doesn't work, so Thomas is the
Show up.
I'll go ahead and start, Mayor and Commissioners. Thomas and I are gonna kind of tag team you on this one. Thomas will be presenting the proposed surface seal contract for your consideration, but we felt that since none of you were on the commission when we began our 5-year transportation capital improvement plan, it'd be a good idea to give you some history and background on how we got where we are with our street projects and our future plans. The city has approximately 101 miles of non-highway streets and 7 miles of 4-lane highways for a total of 108 miles of streets to maintain. For decades, the city didn't have a dedicated source of funds for citywide street improvements, so there was no way to strategically plan for improvements. Nearly all of the funding that was approved most years was matched for KDOT grants. Those grants were for highway improvements and some projects on major non-highway streets and bridges in Coffeyville. So there was no steady stream of funds available for improvements or even preventive maintenance of the residential streets. So most years, nothing was done to those streets and they steadily deteriorated until commissioners received enough complaints and decided it was time to appropriate some funds. Then the city would do a major 2-inch to 4-inch overlay project on a bunch of streets with no real regard for what it would do to the drainage. There was no money allocated for drainage, just cover as many blocks of streets as possible with new asphalt and everyone would be happy. Then for a few more years, nothing would be done until a new group of commissioners heard enough complaints and they would allocate funds for the city to do another mass overlay project. One problem with that approach is that there was no money allocated for preventive maintenance of the streets, so they continued to deteriorate all over town, while a few got overlaid. Another problem was that stacking overlays on top of overlays caused our gutters to fill, sometimes to the top of the curb, which hindered the flow of water and caused ponds at driveways. And finally, the overlays themselves cause huge drainage problems at intersections. As the water flows down the gutter of a well-designed street and comes to an intersection, it normally flows across the intersection or the street in a swale and keeps flowing down the gutter to the next block. But when the cross street is raised by an overlay, the water can't get across that street anymore, so it ponds at the intersection until it evaporates, or worse, it soaks through the asphalt into the subgrade. Water is the #1 enemy of streets, especially asphalt streets. Soggy subgrade fails over time, and the freeze thaw of water in the subgrade and the asphalt deteriorates both. Then the subgrade fails and the asphalt crumbles. You can see the evidence all over town at intersections and at driveways. In order to even begin to properly address the problem, we needed a dedicated source of funds. From 1999 through 2004, the city had a half-cent sales tax dedicated solely to wastewater projects. When that sales tax was renewed for 2004 through 2013, it was split between wastewater and transportation. That sales tax was renewed again for 2014 through 2023, and that time it was dedicated to transportation only. That transportation sales tax was primarily used to pay the city's portion of the 4-lane highway to the industrial park. The final payment on that project was made in 2013. Then those revenues became available for other transportation projects. In 2009, voters approved an additional half-cent sales tax for 5 years to be dedicated to non-highway street projects from April of 2010 through March of 2015. That non-highway transportation sales tax was renewed by the voters in 2015 through March of 2025. So beginning in 2010, we had a half-cent sales tax dedicated as a source of revenue for streets, which became a full penny in 2013 when the final payment was made on the 4-lane to the industrial park project. With 2 dedicated sources of revenue through 2023 and 2025, city staff began to develop a multi-year plan to improve streets throughout Coffeyville. As funds began to slowly grow in the street fund, I began discussions with the City Commission on October 10th, 2010 about the approach we proposed to take with our street program. I discussed the 2 common approaches to street management: worst first versus perpetual pavement. Worst first involves spending all of your available funds replacing the worst streets in town and spending no funds for preventive maintenance of the good streets. This approach results in the continuing deterioration of the good streets while the worst streets are replaced. Following that approach, you then eventually end up replacing the previously good streets that were allowed to deteriorate at a much higher cost rather than preventing the deterioration by applying less expensive preventive maintenance strategies. With the worst first approach, you're always replacing the worst streets at a higher cost, and you never catch up or even make progress toward reducing the number of deteriorated streets. You'll always have an increasing number of bad streets and a smaller and smaller number of good streets. At a KDOT pavement management school that city staff attended recently, the worst first strategy was dubbed the proven death spiral strategy. The experts at the training said that it was shown to be the most expensive way to maintain streets and that sufficient funding does not exist to sustain such a strategy. Nearly all public works experts promote a different approach. That approach is sometimes called the concept of perpetual pavement, which asserts that if a street is regularly protected against water intrusion by crack sealing and surface sealing, and oxidation of the surface by some form of surface sealing, a residential street should last indefinitely. So a sizable percentage of available funds every year should be spent on preventive maintenance on the streets that are still in good enough condition to be saved. Then the remaining funds can be spent repairing or replacing the worst streets. Eventually, the idea is that you'll reach a point in the future where nearly all of the annual funds can be spent on preventive maintenance and all the streets are maintained in a good condition. So city staff proposed to the city commission at the time, and they unanimously approved, that 70% of the funds be allocated to preventive maintenance such as crack sealing and surface sealing, and the remaining 30% be allocated to repair and replacement such as milling and overlay. Is this slide 4, Thomas? Go to slide 4. Oh, yeah. In 2011, 12, and 13, we contracted large crack sealing projects using part of the 70% preventive maintenance funds, in addition to city crews doing in-house crack sealing. During the 2013 project, which ran into 2014, the City Commission approved borrowing $800,000 from another city fund to accelerate our crack sealing program. On this slide, the streets that have been crack sealed are shown in blue. The green streets are in a condition that don't need to be crack sealed at this time, and the red streets are in such a bad condition that they can't be helped by crack sealing. We've now crack sealed nearly every street in town that's not beyond being saved by crack sealing. We're now repaying the loan to the other fund, and beginning next year, we plan to resume crack sealing on a smaller scale where needed. At the same time, city staff began researching various methods of street surface sealing. We've even traveled to see 3 of those products where they've been used in Oklahoma and Missouri. By far, the best product that we've seen so far is the modified aggregate quick set, or called MAX, product available from Donaldson Construction of Springfield, Missouri. Not only is it the best product we've seen, it's very cost competitive with the lesser products. In 2013, among the streets we contracted for MAX surface sealing, we selected some of the worst, most alligator-cracked streets in Coffeyville to put the MAX to the test. The product exceeded our expectations, and 2 years later, those streets are still holding together and shedding water. We also did a MAX project last year, and those streets are performing as we expected also. This slide shows the streets sealed with MAX so far and proposed for this year. The red streets were done in 2013, the yellow streets in 2014, and the green streets are what we're proposing tonight to do this year. As we've discussed in the past, MAX isn't a thick asphalt overlay, so it won't solve every pavement surface problem, but it can smooth out minor rutting and utility patches. It's a thin, approximately a 1/4 inch seal coat with up to a 1/4 inch aggregate, and it costs much less per square yard than asphalt overlay. It's intended as preventative maintenance to make the street last longer. It provides a seal to prevent water intrusion into the asphalt and oxidation of the surface, while also providing a new, very hard driving surface. The fact that it's thin means it won't cause the drainage problems that a 2-inch to 4-inch asphalt overlay would cause. Donaldson also has a product called Flex Scratch, which is used on badly alligatored areas to sort of glue the street back together, followed by the MAX application to seal the entire street. While it's by no means a new street, the final product is a street that's smoother than before application, bonded back together where needed, sealed to prevent water and oxidation damage in the future, and that has a new dark black driving surface with improved tire friction characteristics. And all of this at a small fraction of the cost of new construction or milling and asphalt overlay. I'm going to turn the podium over to Thomas for more information in the proposed agreement, but first I'd like to introduce Mike Donaldson of Donaldson Construction. He came over from Springfield tonight to answer any technical questions you might have about his product.
Thank you, Chuck, for that history on our streets. Mayor, Commissioners, citizens of Coffeyville, I'd like to take a more in-depth look at our toolbox when it comes to pavement preservations and or our perpetual pavement program. City staff is constantly looking for new and better products to help maintain and improve our streets. Currently, the city primarily uses three types of pavement preservation and maintenance. These are crack seal, asphalt cold patch, and our surface seal. Just as you wouldn't use a Phillips screwdriver to tighten a flathead screw, there is not one go-to fix-all treatment for our streets. Perpetual pavement requires the right treatment at the right time. This graph shows the life cycle of pavement without any preventative maintenance, and as you can see, it's an exponential curve diving down. Studies have shown that for every dollar spent in the first 40%, drop in quality would cost $5 to $6 or more if delayed. Asphalt cold patch is a product that is used to patch mainly potholes, but also utility cuts, and can level out any differences in surfacing and any other places where it can help smooth out the ride for our residents. Currently, the cost of cold patch is $115 per ton, and we use between 98 and 171 tons each year. Cold patch is not a permanent fix by itself for our streets. Crack sealing is really the first step in the city's perpetual pavement toolbox. The city purchased a crack seal machine in 2003, but really didn't put it to good use until 2008. City crews apply a simple Band-Aid seal where they use a squeegee to force the crack seal material into the cracks, leaving a thin Band-Aid on the surface. City crews continue to complete in-house crack seal projects until staffing was reduced in the recent years. In addition to in-house projects, the city started contracting large crack seal projects in 2011. For the contracted projects, we elected to have the cracks routed, thus creating a reservoir for the crack seal to go in, and is more in line with KDOT's specifications. Some of the benefits of crack sealing includes, but are not limited to, increased service life. This is due to preventing water from getting into our pavement, lower maintenance costs, greatly reduced potholes, and a smoother ride for our residents. As mentioned before, there is not a fix-all treatment for streets. As you can see, here's a couple of examples where a crack seal crew went a little overboard. These are not City of Coffeyville crews. When streets get to this point, we look for other options, and more specifically, our surface seal products from Donaldson Construction. Donaldson Construction actually provides a family of products under the name of Modified Aggregate Quickset, or MAX. MAX is a product that is applied much like a Surrey seal or a micro seal, but the results are greatly improved over both. The benefits of MAX seals include, but are not limited to, increased service life by preventing water intrusion of the pavement, lower maintenance costs. It produces a black street free of road markings, and it won't allow the road markings on the street to bleed through. It greatly reduces potholes and can be used to level small rutting problems. Provides a new friction wearing surface that is deemed exceptional by industry standards, can be used on roads deemed beyond repair for similar surface seals with the use of Max Flex or Flex Scratch. Highly strength allows for a quick return to traffic. Max Flex or Flex Scratch is truly, in my opinion, what sets Donaldson apart from any other surface seal producer. Flex Scratch can be applied to the alligator streets, which we have a lot of in the city of Coffeyville, and it will fill the cracks and basically glues our streets back together, thus saving hundreds of thousands of dollars that would have been used to dig out and replace these streets under typical methods. There is no other product that staff has been able to find on the market that can do what Flex Scratch does. When paired with their standard Max Seal, we're seeing major improvements to our city streets. As you can see on the picture in the upper left, you can see a 6-year-old Max surface next to an untreated surface. On the bottom, you can actually see where a crack meets the surface and changes its direction. On the right, you can actually see out here in the city of Coffeyville, Overlook Drive and I believe it's Midland. You can see the Max surface is in good condition. Midland's really alligated, which is what Overlook used to look like. And as you can see in the upper corner there, it's starting to fall apart completely and completely fail. Just to reiterate how pavement preservation or perpetual pavement saves the city money, I created a life cycle cost comparison for several surfacing options based on the city's typical street width of 26 feet for the driving surface. One thing to keep in mind on the top for the reconstruction and mill and overlay, if we were to do these, it would trigger ADA requirements, and we would be forced to put in ADA ramps at all the intersections. And those ramps cost, I believe we calculated $12,000 per intersection. As you can see with the life cycle analysis, Max is actually the cheapest with a 8 to 10 year life cycle. And those numbers are per mile per year of their life cycle. And then if there's any questions, like Chuck said, Mike with Donaldson Construction is here. We have some product samples actually, if you want to look at, you can't really see it when it's on the street, but we have some here as well. With that, I'll go into discussion on the actual resolution. This is the Max product, which is the main surface that you're driving on. You can see it's very thin. It's got good skid resistance. This is the Flex Scratch, which they take and spread and squeegee real tight down into the alligator cracks to help kind of pause it together.
This goes down first and this.
That goes down first, and then that's the main driving surface on top that we snap right.
And this is what we got to put in on that.
Yes.
And Donaldson Construction do now produce they're fully self-supporting, they produce their own emulsions. If something's going wrong or doesn't look right, they can stop, take it back to the lab, fix it, come back, and we can achieve a better product.
What's the difference here?
It's the driving surface right here, normal quarter-inch driving surface. This would be the Flex Scratch material that he was referring to. Because what we're able to do is we're actually manufacturing and installing the product as we're paving the street all at the same time. So what I'm able to do is if the guys come to an alligator area, we stop and go up and treat those alligator areas first. And we can actually modify the product. Yes, we take a little different components, inject that into our lay-down equipment, and then produce this type of flexible material to go down into those alligator cracks first. And then once those are cured, we back up and we put the normal driving surface over the top.
Is this what's a quarter-inch?
Yes, sir.
This
Yes,
is
sir.
what's a quarter-inch here.
Yes.
Is that, how thick was that last stuff we put in?
On the highway?
I mean, was it in town, on the street?
On just the street, it's that.
Yeah, yes. And of course, it's a little thicker and obviously down and then into cracks that we treat. So
It didn't seem like it was a quarter-inch at the time.
Yeah, it is, it has quarter-inch aggregate.
Okay.
it's usually at least a quarter because it's gonna be more in some lower areas. Because we're literally putting a straight edge on the street. So we can't lay it any thinner than a quarter because that's the size of the stone that's in there. But down in any of the low areas, it's gonna be thicker than that because we're literally squeeging over the top of the street.
How's that holding up? How's it, looking pretty good?
Yeah, we've been.
Is that what's on Ohio?
Yes, it is. Ohio was one of those that I said we picked some of the worst streets in town. Ohio was one of those, Overlook was one. Streets out in Northbrook that were so bad that the residents were talking about forming a benefit district to have their streets rebuilt. Now they're okay with what they've got after we did this. So,
Hey, Jim. Oh, people need to hear you.
okay, that's a good idea. Leonard, why don't you stand up here for a minute? I've got a few more questions, if you don't mind. You guys got any questions?
I got a question. All this is great, but there are certain areas in this town that are that Sharp Show was not doable. They are in terrible condition, and some of them you can see dirt and ground. These people in these areas feel that they're not cared for, and if they're not going to take care of our streets, why should we take care of our houses?
That chart that was not doable is actually for crack seal.
I understand that.
Those are actually, it's on our 5-year list,
Okay.
where we are taking and putting the max on it if it'll work. Otherwise, we're looking at, slowly building funds for a full reconstruction. We have done.
Do you have a timeline for when some areas in that area will?
I don't have it with me. We have a complete 5-year plan, and we spread it all over town when we do these.
It's been 30 years in some areas.
Yeah,
But we've had funds to start doing this for 5
Yes,
years.
but
at the most, yeah.
it's time we start doing something about those areas.
Right. And
We
then-
agree.
We agree. They're on the list as well.
I got a question, stupid question. I think I know the answer, but I'm asking it for everybody watching. We're not doing anything to the streets over there that don't have any houses on them, right?
Currently, we are not doing anything in the east side redevelopment area because it's still a little bit up in the air on, we're looking at a lot of the streets possibly getting removed. And there's just a lot with the east side redevelopment that is coming, and that's east of Pine, I believe, is where that area is.
Right.
And that map we showed with the crack seal, that area didn't have a color because we haven't done anything until it's determined whether those streets are even going to be there a few years from now.
Thank you.
My question is prior to your company coming in and placing this product on the street, it's the city's responsibility to come in prior to the product being placed on the streets and basically patch the big trouble spots,
Right.
or
Anywhere where it's a complete failure, we'll come in and we'll patch that.
or grind them down if there's a
Hump.
hump.
Yeah.
And this is good for you, maybe not so good for us. Your companies move so incredibly fast that are we allowing ourselves, and given this contract, are we allowing ourselves to either come in before them and fix the problems before they lay this product down? Because if we're waiting until they show up to start doing this, I don't think that we kept up with them very well last time.
Last time we were behind on mostly cleaning the gutters out. These streets that we're doing this year, Chuck and I drove them a couple weeks ago, and we're really starting the streets are in good shape. Let's put something on them and keep them in good shape. So these streets, there's a whole lot less dig out that's going to be required, a whole lot less of the edging and.
But in the previous 2 years that we did this, we did start ahead. It's just there were so many bad spots that they caught up with us.
Exactly, and that's what I want to make sure that we're doing. And the thing is I don't know if it's because of staffing that you got to, if someone's doing that, they're not doing something else.
That's right. And sometimes they're called off that to do something else.
Mr. Donaldson?
I just want to make sure that we're
Managing it properly.
that we're ahead of them, because when they come to town, they don't play around, right?
They do.
Yeah.
One thing sediment and dirt and debris. And it is hard to get that out sometimes, especially with like they said earlier, the only place to put that material would be up in driveways and yards, and that's not gonna work either. So in the past, we have spent a lot of time with our crew slowing down a little bit more than maybe it even looked like, but we did slow down to the point where I had our guys out cleaning and prepping the streets ourselves better to get good bond to the surface. And then, but even more so, we've invested a little bit more in some equipment, mainly with you guys even in mind, to help these guys out in prepping the streets as well. So we kind of tag team and work together to prep them as we get into town.
Thank you.
What's the, how long have you been putting this stuff down?
I've been doing this about 12 years now. I got a patent on it, and about 12 years ago, so I've been doing it for about that long.
What's the average lifespan of this stuff?
Everybody asks me that, and I have to be honest with you, I don't know, because I've been, to be quite honest, when we first started this about 12 years ago, we weren't near as smart as we are today about what we're doing. However, the roads in Greene County and around Springfield that we did 12 years ago, 90+% of the material that we did at that time is all still on the surface, still doing this job. So how long it's really gonna stay there? I'd say after probably 10, 12 years, we're starting to see some of the degrading going on. Is it gonna be 10, 12, 15, depends on traffic. A lot of it's gonna depend on the underlying street itself. If the substructure in the existing asphalt is in good shape, it's gonna last longer. If not, it's maybe not gonna perform as well. In other words, you may wanna come in and do another treatment of some type to that street. Not so much that our surface is gonna be worn off, but that it's some other failure may be occurring in that street that's gonna require another type of treatment to address it.
All right, thank you.
Mike, what little I know about, I just learned tonight, okay? It sounds like you got a patent and you got quite a thing going.
Yes, sir, we do.
How many, you're really growing and your business is growing and,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. When we started into this, about, like I said, 10, 12 years ago, this was a dead industry. You had chip seals, you had some, overlay, fog seals are out there, but there was really nothing that was really, there was products that claimed to be in between price-wise, but the performance wasn't there. Like they were noting earlier, some of the old-fashioned slurries and things really had a terrible reputation. They hit the right price point, but the performance was awful. I mean, you're talking about getting maybe 2-3 years of life out of this kind of stuff. And so when we got into this business, we had to spend a lot of our time going out and having folks get re-educated that gosh, this type of product can actually perform the way it's supposed to. It's designed properly. But yes, as a result, over time, our business has grown quite a bit. We're located and based in Missouri, but now this year we're probably going to be operating in about six and up to 8 states.
sounds good, sounds really good. How many towns have you done this in? Maybe, 300 or what? Throw a number out there.
Goodness, throw a number, sir, I'd say well over 100.
Okay. Okay. Is there a,
In this area, looking at their product.
Okay.
After seeing our streets.
Yes, the city of Olathe is one who is also, about the same time that you all visited and got on board, the city of Olathe is knee-deep in this stuff right now. They love it, and they've been doing it now very seriously the last several years.
okay, so we don't get other bids, we're just,
In the case of this, it's a sole source. They have the patent. We've looked at other products to see if we could find other products that we felt were comparable to bid, but we haven't found anything that we felt would do the job like this does. And their price has not gone up since the first year that they gave us a price to try to get that first job with us. They've held their price, so.
the price of oil and gas, petroleum products going down, it hadn't helped since a year ago.
It went up before it ever went down, and so, yeah, we've kind of been riding that storm out a little bit. No, there's a lot of, it is a component, and we do ride that wave a little bit, but for the most part, there's a lot of labor and a lot of other factors that go into it.
When you put heat on that asphalt, what, you don't?
It's not a heated.
Oh, it's,
No, No, it's what we call a cold process, which means
Okay,
everything
okay.
is manufactured at ambient temperatures.
I see, I thought maybe it warmed up the asphalt before you put it on.
No, sir.
I didn't know, okay.
Marcus, do you have any further questions?
No, sir, I do not.
Jim?
No, I got a comment though when you're done.
Go ahead.
I really appreciate you coming over, Mike. Learned a lot tonight. It's nothing like having you here, okay, to talk to about it. And Chuck and Thomas, it's a very nice presentation. I feel like I know a little something about it. I will have to tell you that in the past, there's been a lot of talk around town and amongst probably some of us that it's just a little thin coat of nothing on there. And after this, I think I know a little bit more about it, and I'm anxious to see it when you do it again next time. I mean, when I saw your little deal, it looked like it was pretty thick and looked like it'd last 10 or 12 years. And what talk I've had around town and heard, it was only, you know, a 32nd of an inch or a 16th of an inch, and it was going to be gone in a couple of years. So that's what I just want you to know, okay?
We have faced that ever since we've been in business. When I first started in Greene County at Springfield, 12 years ago, the same statements were made, and the guys were saying, we're going to take regular plows and we'll plow that stuff right off the road. There's nothing there to hold together. And all they've done is sharpen their plows over time, because it's really God-given gift of bulletproof is really what it
Okay.
is. It works remarkably well.
Friday and money, I'd be trying to invest in your company.
Any further questions?
No, thank you.
I move to approve resolution number R-15-77.
Second.
Motion was made by Mayor Williams and seconded by Commissioner Castler to approve resolution number R-15-77 for adoption. Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Thank you.
That
Thank
was-
you.
Thanks, Thomas. Did we need to talk to him after the meeting or anything?
He'll go.
Hey, okay.
Resolution number R-15-78, a resolution to execute an access to property agreement assessment in favor of the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, property located at 2601 North 5th Street, Industrial Park in Coffeyville, Kansas. City Attorney Paul Kreitz will make comments.
Commissioners, the Department of Health and Environment has requested access to the property that we purchased recently where the new generation facility will be located to do some trenching. The work plan is on pages 111 through 207 of your agenda. It's summarized on pages 2 through 6 of the work plan in small print. And I'll just read you a few, just for the benefit of the public that's here and listening, what the KDHE is requesting. This is through the Orphan Sites Program, and they propose to do trenching and soil sampling activities at this site where the Fiberglass Corporation of America used to sit. According to the work plan, previous investigations conducted at the site identified a magnetic anomaly located in the southwest corner of the southern parcel, which is now owned by the city of Coffeyville. The purpose of conducting the trenching activities at this site is to determine whether or not buried waste is present and causing the magnetic anomaly and the elevated groundwater contamination in the immediate area. As referenced in the work plan, the city will be redeveloping the site plan for the location of the new electrical power plant with major construction activities to begin in October of 2015. Prior to commencing any trenching activities, KDHE will ensure that utilities have been properly marked and cleared, and the city will provide an excavator and its operator to dig 3 trenches to an approximate depth of 9 to 10 feet across the anomaly area. Soil samples will be collected using an excavator bucket. If buried containers are discovered during the excavation activities will cease, and KDHE will then hire a qualified contractor to come in, investigate, identify, properly remove the potentially hazardous waste and impacted soils. The time frame that they are proposing to do the work will be such that they will avoid impacting the city of Coffeyville's on-site construction program or project to begin in October. They'll provide us a final copy, a final report of their activity at the site, and most importantly, as far as the city is concerned, the access to the property agreement, which you will actually approve this evening if you vote to do so, provides that the Department of Health and Environment assures the owner, us, that prior to termination of the access to property agreement, all materials and equipment shall be removed from the subject property, and the property will be restored as nearly as reasonably possible to the condition it was in at the time the agreement was executed. The department represents and warrants that its contractor shall have adequate insurance or financial assurances to protect and safeguard the city and personal and real property in accordance with the terms of the access to the property agreement, and the department will solely be responsible for the proper disposal of all investigative derived wastes created during their assessment and or investigation activities. Do you have any questions?
Gentlemen, questions? It's pretty straightforward, I
Yeah,
think.
I got a question. I mean, you told us a lot, Paul, but why do you have to have an agreement for them to come onto the property?
Because it's the city's property, so they are requesting a license to go onto our property to do the investigation and the trenching activity and the cleanup.
I just never heard of it. I've heard of remedial and inspections and all this, 15, 20 times in my life, and I've never heard of them having to have an agreement to access the property. And there must be more to it than that. There's got to be, evidently it's giving them the right to do it or something.
That's exactly what it's doing. It's giving them the right to come on the property and actually do this investigation and trenching activity and then remediate the property.
So-
I don't remember too many other occasions where KDHE has requested access to city properties. I'm assuming they probably have the means to do this without our permission if we were to withhold
Right,
our consent, but that probably would involve some sort of litigation.
right. So they're doing this environmental thing for us?
They're remediating the property not for us, really, it's for the public. This is not a mess that was created by the city in any way, shape, or form, and as we've talked in previous discussions, the city has gone through its due diligence before acquiring this property to make sure that we did the environmental studies and established what contaminants were there so that we're not responsible for the cleanup now or in the future.
So this work that KDHE is going to do, they're going to pay, it's on them?
It's totally on the KDHE, the state of Kansas. That's right.
Has it got something to do with what's happened there in the past and their involvement?
Yeah, there's a fairly lengthy history of this property. It goes back to,
Right, I knew that.
that's all there in the work plan.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a no-lose situation, does it not?
It's a no-lose situation.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's go.
I move to approve resolution number R-15-78.
Second.
Motion was made by Mayor Williams and seconded by Commissioner Castler to approve resolution number R-15-78 for adoption. Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor?
Aye.
Mayor Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Castler?
Aye.
Resolution number R-15-79, a resolution to authorize the city of Coffeyville to establish an account with the Kansas Municipal Investment Pool. Finance Director Stephanie Richardson will make comments.
Mayor and Commissioners, our bond closing for our new generation project will happen on Thursday. We will have funds coming into the bank in excess of our FDIC coverage. Therefore, we need to have pledged securities issued to cover the $52 million in bonds that we'll have coming in. I contacted our local bank where the city's funds are currently held, and they were unable to obtain the pledged securities necessary for this coverage in the needed time frame. These funds will be held in the account for approximately 30 days while we're going through an RFP process to determine investment options for these funds that meet our drawdown schedule for our project. This was a short time frame for the bank to hold those funds, and so therefore they worked with us to come up with some other options for securing the monies. Springstead, our financial advisors, suggested that we contact the Kansas Municipal Investment Pool. This organization was established to help local governments with investment opportunities. This is also the organization that invests the state general fund monies, KDOT funds, those type of things, anything held by the Kansas State Treasurer. The investments made through this organization do comply with state statutes, and they follow the investment policies and are under the direction of the Pooled Money Investment Board. We are, like I said, the funds will be coming in on Thursday. So in order to start the account, we need to have a resolution approved by the commission. That's why we added it to your agenda this evening. And that will go to the Municipal Investment Board in the morning to get that account established for us. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer those.
I don't have any questions. Gentlemen, questions?
Nope.
So this just so we can insure the money?
Yes.
Well,
And like I said, we're working with Springstead to do an RFP process to determine some investment options. That RFP, I've requested that it do go to all of our local banks to involve them in that process if they're interested in submitting some information on investments.
Has any time in the history that you know of is a city like this put money in something and then somehow it got taken? Have you ever heard of that? I mean, I'm sure we need to do this, but I just wondered. I never thought about it till today, okay?
Yeah.
Just curious.
We have this now in the funds that the city has. The bank pledges securities against the funds that exceed our FDIC coverage. That's something that the auditors check when they come every year is to make sure that we've got pledged securities to cover our funds.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie.
Questions?
Make a motion to approve resolution R-15-79.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Martin and seconded by Mayor Williams to approve resolution number R-15-79 for adoption. Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye. I want to make a motion at this point to recess the meeting for a short break to return at 7:55.
You don't need a
Second.
motion for that. We can just take a break.
All right.
given by James Grimmett, the interim city manager.
Mayor and Commissioners, just to have a few things tonight. 619 South Walnut, the building that we purchased for the fire department to move into. You know, that was, had a phase 1 and 2 study done on it. And also KDHE has hired a firm to continue the environmental investigation. They will be requesting us for access to that property the same as the property at the industrial site. They will be drilling monitoring wells at that location, and this is being funded by the Kansas Petroleum Storage Tank Release Trust Fund. So the city's not on the hook for that. I wanted to inform you that Brahms will be opening July the 13th at 6 a.m. I know everyone's excited about that. And also, I wanted to relay to you a feel-good story. On June the 1st, Lieutenant Joe Rexwinkle and firefighter Jason Stubbs were out testing a fire hydrant and in the 800 block of West 8th when a funeral procession was approaching. The guys shut down the hydrant, saluted until the procession passed, and we received comments from former Mayor Faulkner and the family members. They wanted us to know, they wanted to acknowledge how powerful and meaningful that was to the family. I have personally thanked Rexwinkle and Stubbs for that, and I just wanted to pass that on to you guys. That's all I have.
Thank you, James. That's a perfect example of the outstanding employees that we have working for the city of Coffeyville. That's all that needs to be said about that. Moving on to comments from commissioners and staff. Any staff comments that we need to address? None. Moving on to comments from commissioners.
I got one quick one. I'd just like to mention John Hufford is the guy that's responsible for the flags up and down the highway. I'd like to thank him. I think it looks nice. He's taking care of them, making sure they stay upright. That's all I've got.
How long do they stay?
This is just what I've been hearing. He's going to stay up till November. Looks good to me. I mean, as long as he takes care of him, he's doing a good job.
I have a laundry list of things I'd like to discuss. First of all, I know it's maybe inappropriate to bring up at this time since our IT director is not in attendance, but the security cameras at the electric plant, what do we need to do to get those up and running?
I don't know, but I'll find out.
Okay.
Didn't actually know that they were down.
And this is, if for the public's benefit, we had an orientation a couple of few days back, and we took tours of different departments, and in the process of taking that tour, I noted several things of concern to me, and I think that needs to be addressed immediately by staff. Now, obviously, it's not our place to tell them what to do, but it is our place to bring it to the attention, and some of it can be addressed here, so we can get the ball rolling rather quickly. But I think that the security issue at the electric plant is a vital issue that needs to be addressed immediately.
What did you say that?
The cameras for the exterior of the building in different spots of the city that monitor infrastructure, and I don't want to go into it right now because I don't think it's appropriate to list where those are at, but there's some camera issues that we need to
Some of them weren't working.
Right. Second thing is the we have accumulated a pile of junk, more or less, that has accumulated over who knows how long out at the wastewater treatment facility. And it's everything from metal pipe to a drinking fountain that's out there in a big pile. And basically the grass is growing all around it. And then there's probably 25 abandoned cars and a construction trailer, a couple of buses, and who knows what else. What do we need? Do we need to take action as a commission to get rid of that stuff, or because it's serving absolutely no purpose, but being nothing more than a house for rodents and varmints?
No, I don't think you guys need to take action. I spoke with Paul about this yesterday, and he's outlined some steps that I need to get with the police department that we could take, things that are salvageable or that are salvage that we can just scrap out, including the vehicles.
Okay. The second and the next thing I wanted to bring up is we have an issue with our construction down at the bank downtown. And I'd like to have an update on that because we've had a significant event take place down there.
Dennis is overseeing that project. Dennis, would you come forward and give an update on that?
Mayor and Commissioners, what was it with regard to the Perkins building that you had a question on?
It's my understanding that we developed a significant leak down there, and it has damaged our property.
That's correct. On Friday night, we during the rainstorm, the contractor that was there handling the removal of the asbestos-containing material and the re-roofing contractor put a tarp over the uncompleted and undried-in area of the roof, which was about the south third of the roof, and the tarp blew off during that storm. The contractor came back on Saturday morning and put a new tarp on, and my understanding is that it was put down better and held. Standard procedure would be to dry in the area that you are removing and replacing at the end of each workday, and for sure when there's threatening weather over the weekend. The contractor was aware of it, and right now it's an issue between the roofing subcontractor, the asbestos removal contractor, and the general contractor as to between those three whether it's going to be one's insurance or another's paying for it. The general contractor visited with Stacia and Thomas and myself on I think last Thursday, and was taking steps to make sure that that didn't happen again. I don't believe the gentleman that was in charge of that portion of the work is on site any longer, and the general contractor is bringing in a wood, part of his wood subcontracting crew to replace damaged materials and refinish them so that they match the originals.
Have they assured us that they are going to handle the damage that they caused?
They did.
Are you satisfied with that?
They haven't done it yet, so I can't say.
What did I know about? Was I supposed to know about this? I didn't know about it.
I don't know about it.
You didn't know about it?
I knew about it because I stopped by the Chamber of Commerce to, I can't remember why I stopped by, but I stopped by and I was there, and there it was. So when you stop by the Chamber of Commerce and there's water dripping from the blinds, it becomes concerning.
How much damage we got, Dennis? Is there a wild guesstimate?
not a dollar amount, because it won't involve the city monetarily. The contractor will be taking care of it out of his pocket or his insurance company's.
Do they have payment and performance bonds on that?
I don't know that.
Have we contacted those people?
That won't cover it. It would be the contractor's insurance company, not their bonding company. But they've indicated that they're going to replace ceilings with new sheetrock and finish it out and repaint it and replace damaged wood. And that's why they're bringing their wood contractor in to assess the extent and how to go about making those repairs.
I've got
Go
one.
ahead.
Are you handling this issue with the contractors and all them folks on behalf of the city? Are you our representative to them on behalf of the city for this issue, or is it going to be someone else?
I'm assuming it will be me, but I know since Stacia is in the building every day, they have been in contact with her directly because she's there to go through and review different detail areas of the damage that occurred. But in terms of pay requests with the general contractor and change orders and approval of those, I've been signing off on those.
That's all the questions I have at this moment.
Stacia, have you got anything to add that we've left unaddressed? Because this is news.
Really, my only concern at this point is there are some items that I feel are damaged that it sounds like the construction company may or may not consider damaged. So we're still talking about those things, but that's my only concern at this point.
Has their insurance company been on site yet?
No.
Well, we need to get them on site.
I think, I think that would be up to them whether they're filing that claim or not.
No.
If they choose not to contact the insurance company and make the repairs without involving them, that's their prerogative.
Did we get a copy of their certificate of insurance?
I'd have to check with SFS
Okay.
in Kansas City to find out. Typically
Well-
we do, but I don't have a copy in my files. Do you have a copy?
Legal?
I think that I think that's all that we need to say at this point. Just leave it at that, and then we need to have an executive session or attorney-client privilege. I don't think.
Well, that's fine. It needs to be discussed.
I don't think that we need to make any more statements publicly.
That's fine, whatever you want to do. I don't have a problem talking about it. It's business. I want to talk about it with somebody sometime, I know that.
Well, I think that.
You know, I've never heard of,
Here's what I'm getting at, Jim, is that you don't want to put yourself behind you don't want to box yourself in a corner by talking too much on a legal situation.
well, I understand that.
And the more that we talk
We've
about
got a claim here, and these things
or
need.
we could potentially have litigation.
From what?
If they don't pay the claim. if
There's
they
nothing
never-
wrong with us talking about it. That's what we need to do more of here in this meeting, because we can't talk too much during the week. And we're the commissioners, and we've got our legal staff here, we got our manager, we got everybody here.
You don't talk
And-
about legal things and.
It's not a legal thing, this is a claim. If they don't fix it, it's gonna be a legal thing, but there's nothing wrong with trying to protect yourself and asking. I mean, I've been involved in a lot of insurance claims and stuff. And the first
And then-
thing,
Okay, then answer my question. If you've been involved in a lot of insurance claims,
Yeah.
if they don't pay the insurance claim, what do you do?
well, we need to talk,
What do you do?
we're gonna have to sue them. But
That's what
but
I'm
they've
talking
got insurance, and there's nothing wrong with talking about getting the insurance company on site quick.
Paul, do you want to interject at all?
I'm sorry.
Paul, do you want to interject on this?
I think they're correct in their statements that if the contractor is offered to make it, to fix it, to make us whole,
Well,
that's his prerogative.
okay, well, Stacey's already said something about, the contractor wondering what's damaged and what's not. And if we feel it's damaged, we need them there, okay? If we feel it's damaged, we need to get them in there and get started. That is a no-brainer, okay?
I understood the discussions are still.
Yeah, whatever, go on. I'm done talking about it. It's silly. It's very silly. We need to get them in there. I'm already here in Stacia. We just found out about this, okay? Didn't know about it. When there's a police deal, we get all kinds of stuff. They're chasing here and they're doing that, which is great. And I've told everybody I like that. Now we got a claim that's probably sounds like pretty expensive to me.
We don't really have a claim.
Yeah, I don't think we have a
The
claim.
contractor has not yet made a determination whether he's going to file a claim with this insurance. He may decide to make those costs up out of his pocket. He may
Okay,
not-
well, maybe I'm overreacting. That's fine. You guys, we'll move forward.
We just need to cover ourselves and make sure that the things that we know to be damaged
Mhm.
are being fixed. So,
Do you have some legal counsel on what we should do in this situation? Do you have some legal counsel that maybe some steps that we should take to document the damage? That maybe we should send some people over there and take a look at it? Do you have a legal position on maybe we should send folks over there to take pictures? Aren't these things that we probably should discuss in attorney-client privilege
It certainly is something we could discuss.
instead of laying our case out here in front of everybody in
It's not-
town?
It's not really laying a case. The city has no liability, Chris. The city has no liability in this, okay? The contractor made a mistake. It's probably an insurance claim. I assumed, when I talked to Dennis a minute ago, I assumed it would be a performance bond issue, but it probably is liability after he mentioned that. And the insurance companies really like to know about these things early on.
Don't you think?
And
Don't you think an attorney would know that better and be able to answer that better than you would?
I don't know if an attorney would or not. A claims insurance attorney, yes, but I don't think it takes one. I mean, I asked Paul, I just asked him before you did. I asked him what he thought before you asked the question. I'm just trying to get it done so we can move forward. I mean, the claim happened a few days ago, and I will tell you that I've seen this happen many times. Well, go. You're rolling your eyes.
I'm not rolling my eyes. I'm done. I'm listening to your explanation.
I think that what we can do is we can go down with Stacia, make a list of what we think are the damages, get with the general contractor. If he disagrees with that, maybe we ask that he bring his insurance representative to the site so we can talk with him.
if we are going to do that, we need to do that quickly. I understand the flooring contractor is coming tomorrow.
We can do that tomorrow.
Okay.
I think we need their insurance company, there's what I think. But you guys handle it however you want to handle it. From what I've heard, I think you need them there. It doesn't cost anything, okay? And to save time and get things rolling, I think you need their insurance contractor there. That's what I think. You guys do what you want to do. We'll roll with it.
Chris, anything else?
No.
Okay. I'm going to get some information out there. There's been some things, some misinformation out there of our citizens. We are not the highest taxed city in Kansas, correct? Okay, that's been going out there. And the other one that's been going out there is that the city of Coffeyville has a high mill levy. Higher than.
No, we passed around some information at the training, and I didn't bring the book with me, but it shows where we sit in relation to the surrounding cities as far as the mill levy, and we're not the highest.
I'd like for citizens, I mean, I know it's on the website, but the citizens have a hard time wanting to search for it. I'd like for the future for the city manager to have permission to post stuff like that and critical links when it comes to tax season and stuff like that. Just to blurt out problems that go over the internet basically it all stems from the circulation of some information that got out there about us being the poorest city in the state. And I just want to get that out there to the citizens. The second thing I want to bring up is about a year ago, I asked to look into having a volleyball court put out there by Feaster Park. And now that we have a parks board, I'd like to try to see if we can put that in their hands. I think that they think it's a good idea to do. I've had people tell me they would like to see one. If this parks board wants to do that, that's great. That's what I'd like to see. If not, then I'll leave it rest. That's all I have.
Any further comments?
Yeah, Stacia, I want to come by and see you tomorrow and see what's going on over there. I don't know, I don't know how many of us can meet down there or whatever, but you there all day tomorrow?
I think so.
Okay. I'll come by and see you tomorrow. Thank you.
The morning would be best.
Okay, thank you, Stacia.
That's it.
Any further questions or comments?
No, make a motion to go to move on.
Move that we adjourn to executive session. First of all, for attorney-client privilege, the time now is 8:19. The attorney-client privilege will return at 8:45. All in favor?
Aye. Second. Aye.
No action on that portion.